Hey everyone. Okay, this is Mrs. Straight here. And I'm going to go over and make you a video. Sorry if it's long. Um, Hopefully you only need to watch one, right? Okay. So we're gonna go over again it's 5-9, that factoring pattern for ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are going to be numbers. And so this trinomial, you'll see that there is a leading coefficient. That means it's leading off, and there's a coefficient attached to that quadratic. Okay, so let's just look at example 1. Right, it reads 2x squared plus 7x minus 9. So going back to our pattern up here, so this is the a, and then we have our x squared, and then this is that 7, b is represented by 7 in this case, and that -9 is always that third term, that constant at the end without a variable attached to it, right? So that's our ax squared plus bx minus 9 pattern. Okay, so it gets a little complicated when we have that leading coefficient. Here's the steps to factoring. So step 1 is multiply that leading coefficient times the third term, that constant. So -9 times 2 is -18. Then you need to think of and write down all the factor pairs that when multiplied equal -18. So it's tempting to just try and do it in your head. And eventually you'll get to the point where you can, no problem. But for now, I encourage you to actually write down all the factor pairs. I've seen students get really confused. Okay, how? 6 times 3. So -6 times +3, or a +6 times a -3, and -9 times a +2, and then +9 times a -2. So all of these factor pairs, when multiplied, will get you to -18. But which of these factor pairs, when added, equals +7? Well, only one of them, and that's going to be that +9 plus a -2 equals +7. Okay, so we're going to take this plus 7x, and we're actually going to split it into 2 separate terms using +9 and -2. So we rewrite it 2x squared, and I'm actually going to put that -2x with that 2x squared, because you want to be able to factor this part of the trinomial. We're going to factor by grouping. And if you put 2 with 9, there's no factoring that you can do, right? Okay. And then plus 9x minus 9. And then you see that 9x is with a -9, and that's going to factor out nicely as well. So I didn't change the value of my trinomial. These are still equal. 2x squared plus 7x minus 9 is just a simplified form of this polynomial. Now, instead of a trinomial, I guess it's still a trinomial. Okay, so I just split that 7x into 2 terms, okay, so that I can factor it by grouping. So let me rewrite that, because that box might be confusing in a second. Okay, then I just split left and right, and I'm going to factor the left first. I'm looking at 2x squared and negative, oops, sorry, that's not a x, and negative 2x, and I'm going to determine the greatest common factor. We'll first look at the numbers, the coefficients, 2 and 2, well, the greatest common factors, 2, and then x squared and x. Greatest common factor is x. Okay, so I'm going to factor it out, which means divide it out. So what is 2x squared divided by 2x? Well, that just equals x. And then what is negative 2x divided by 2x? That's just, well, anything divided by itself is 1, right? So that's 1. So x minus 1. Okay, now for the right side. Plus, okay, you just copy that sign down. Well, 9x and negative 9, obviously 9 is the greatest common factor. And they don't both have an x, so you can't factor out an x. If there's no x, it can't be factored out. Okay, so now I'll do my scratch work down here. So what is 9x divided by 9? Well, that just equals x. And then what is negative 9 divided by a positive 9? That is negative 1. Okay. So this is the first step of now we're going to factor. Now you know you're on the right track when these two factors in parentheses are identical twins. They need to be exactly the same. If one is plus and one is minus, you did something wrong, you factored it wrong. And then at that point, what you're gonna need to do is actually redistribute, okay, and multiply each section, each side, and it should equal this, okay? And if it doesn't, then you'll see what you did wrong. Okay. So I'm gonna recopy this. So I left off at 2x, x minus 1, plus 9, x minus 1. Okay, so this is one factor. And the other factor comes from pulling out the two factors of each side, and you just write it in order, 2x plus 9. And that is your second factor. So this is the factored form of the trinomial 2x squared plus 7x minus 9. And if you're not sure, then you have to check your work by distribution, right? By multiplying these two factors and seeing if it leads you back to that original trinomial. Okay, I'm gonna stop this recording and start another.